Just nu visar Waldemarsudde i Stockholm en fin utställning om den tyska konstnärskolonin Worpswede. Till den lilla byn Worpswede på landet utanför Bremen sökte sig många unga konstnärer vid förra sekelskiftet. En av dem var Paula Modersohn-Becker som under sitt korta intensiva liv målade som ingen hade gjort före henne. Hennes porträtt, framförallt av kvinnor och unga flickor, är sakliga och förvånansvärt moderna. Hon stod inför en intressant utveckling i sitt konstnärskap när hon dog i barnsäng, blott 31 år gammal. Den franska författaren Marie Darrieussecq greps av hennes öde och ville ge henne livet åter i en bok, en biografi. I'm very curious about your connection to Paula Becker. How did you first encounter Paula Becker?
I met her through an email, an unwanted email. You know, I was about to throw it away, and it was about a conference about, again, mother and child, and there was a very tiny, like, size stamp image of a breastfeeding mother reclining on her side. And I thought, I like painting, I know a little bit of painting, so I thought, who painted that? What is it? And I was myself breastfeeding my third child at that time. It was some years ago. And I thought, who knows that you are so much better on your side, almost asleep, you know, than like standing like a Madonna, you know, like this. And thanks to internet, without internet, I would not have been able to know her, in fact. I started searching images and her name appeared, and I realized she was a woman in the beginning of the 20th century. She died very early because of the birth of her daughter was a nightmare, and she died after childbirth. And she was friend with Rilke. And Rilke, I had been reading him so much and liking him and not liking him. It was very ambivalent for me. And this woman and the paintings I saw on the internet, I loved her immediately. And I went to Bremen, I went many times to Germany to look at her paintings and to see the archives. What saved me was that she wrote a diary, a very thick diary, and letters, and everything was there. Because my first reaction, I love fiction, I write fiction in general. My first reaction was to write a novel about her. But I thought, no, you cannot do that, because in France, nobody knew her, and even in Sweden, she's not very well known. And even actually in Germany, she's quite famous, but not that widely. So I thought, you have to tell what was her life exactly. You have to tell as much as you can the real person she was and the real painter. And so I started doing a little bit of research. It was quite easy, in fact. Everything is in Bremen. I was helped by the people there who take care of her legacy. And my question was, because I write novels, how can you make the life of such a living person on paper? How can you reduce it to paper? Because life is made of words, but it's made of sensations, of feelings, of encounters, love, friendships, enemies sometimes. It's not only words. So my job as a writer was to, that's why the book is quite thin, to respect what I didn't know, and to respect also the mysteries, the opacities of a life. For example, I am not sure that she had lovers. I hope she had. But because I cannot be sure, I just left gaps in the text. I know that in other biographies, some people say, and why not, that yes, she loved this one and this one. I don't know. And I wanted a biography where, for example, her friendship with Rilke, I knew a lot about it. There are many letters, and it's such a funny friendship. So I wrote what I could about it, but what I didn't know, I didn't write.
But it does give you a feeling that this is a very ambivalent friendship between Rilke and Becker, because I have a feeling that he is a person who really understands her.
Yes.
Maybe the only one, more than her husband, yes. And the son.
Her husband, who is also displayed in the exhibition, was a nice guy, a good guy. He really loved her, and he always supported her financially. and lovingly. But Rilke was some really high-level poet, of course, but also a great friend. They could speak from artist to artist, Rilke and Paula Becker, but also, I don't know, they were on a certain planet, I think. And he was very much in love with her in the beginning. We have letters of him to Lou Andrea Salome, his ex-girlfriend. And he was fascinated by Paula Becker and also by Clara, her best friend, the tall brunette and the little blonde. They were so complementary for him. It was in 1900, the beginning of the century, the beginning of everything. It's like the beginning of a world, and they are all 23, 24. They are very young people. And this young poet meets those two bright, young artists, girls with these summer dresses. We have photos also, white summer dresses. They are so incredibly charming and talented. And of course, he's crazy about them. And Paula resists. And because Rilke is a very classical male, he falls in love with the one who resists. That's and she's very flirtatious with him. The letters are absolutely charming and very poetic. And finally, he marries Clara, the best friend. Terrible husband, never marry Rilke, it's a very bad idea. But all these letters, what I like is that they were great artists. She's a great artist, but also they were just like us, human beings, struggling with love, with friendship, with jealousy, with the possibilities of life, which are not so large. And she wanted to go to Paris, which was very brave at that time for a young woman. She managed to go there 4 times. And I also like very much the relationship she has with my beloved city of Paris. And Rilke joined her there, and it's sometimes it's like a soap opera because the husband is not happy, so he comes to get her, etc. I also like telling stories, and it was such a good story, you know.
I was so amazed when I heard that you had written a biography, because to me you are a novelist.
Yes,
from the tip of your toe to the top of your head.
Yes. I love fiction. To me, fiction is, I could talk for a long time about it. Fiction is the best way to describe the world, because the reality of the world is so harsh that I need to step a little bit outside of it to watch it and tell stories. But this Paula Becker is, she has an incredible story in herself. It's already almost a novel. And her life was too short, and it's a shame. And you know, her last word is schade in German. It means, what a pity. It's a shame. Why do I die so early? She was only 31, and she was on the verge of becoming a cubist. She was the same age as Picasso. She dies the year when Picasso holds an African mask in his young hands, and he understands that you can paint a face as a mask. And in the 3rd dimensions, she was about to go there, and she dies of a very feminine death at that time. Rilke says so in the Requiem he dedicates to her, and fiction was not an option for her, because I wanted her real. I wanted to give her life. It's almost mad, but I wanted to use my tools as a writer to give her more life, and in a way justice. It's not a novel for once, but it's some strange sort of biography. It's I hope it's a biography that leaves air inside, air and freedom, and the incredible freedom she had. She was very, very strange for her time.
She was so brave.
She was brave, obstinate.
I thought she was much older, actually.
Yes.
I mean, she went to Paris several times. She went to London also to study art.
Yes, and to Norway with her uncle. And what I cannot solve as a mystery, because I know a lot about her now, but I still don't understand why and how this very young woman knows in her time, and before everybody else almost, that Cézanne is a very important painter, Gauguin, Le Douanier Rousseau, all these French painters that were discovering something, and she knows it. There is a famous scene for the people who know her, where she's in Paris at the Galerie Vollard, the merchant of Cézanne. Cézanne is quite known by specialists. And she's only 23, and the paintings are on the ground, and she takes them very casually, and she says to her best friend Clara, look, there's a new simplicity there. She knows. How? Why? I mean, she lived in Bremen, a small German city, very Puritan. That's a mystery. She had it.
Yes, she really did, and so she must be. She had this compass, an inner compass for what was good and what was interesting, and I think there is something in her artistic eye which is so fresh for the time. I mean, she has a feminine view of the feminine body, which is so interesting when you look at her paintings, I think.
That's the paradox of her art and of her life. Nobody took her seriously, let's put it simply.
Not even Rilke, in a way. He appreciated her as an artist, but when he does this monography over the Worpswede artist, he leaves her out. Why?
He doesn't even mention her.
No.
I think because at the time, you couldn't be a serious man and take a woman seriously in public. He knew intimately that she was a good painter and a very interesting artist, but he couldn't assume to say it in public. And the situation is repeated until she dies. And when she dies, he's so shocked and sad that he writes the Requiem for her.
In which he doesn't mention her name.
In which you can absolutely recognize her, her style, whom she is, the first woman who painted herself naked in the history of art, but he does not give her name. It's typical. Typical of the time and typical of Rilke. And while he knew that the way she looked at women and at her own body was absolutely new. Because when you see the paintings she does of herself naked, or of little girls in particular, or of young women, or of breasting women, they are not erotic. They are sensual, they are voluptuous, but they are not erotic in the usual sense, in the sense that during centuries, men painted naked women and made masterpieces, that's not a question, but in a different gaze. The gaze, the look she has on the female naked body is completely new. We know what she means. They are real bodies, not ugly, not beautiful, just bodies, true, real, and they are not sanctified, and they are not eroticized. I don't know how to say. It's neither the Madonna, neither the whore. It's not Olympia, and it's not the Virgin Mary. It's something else. It's a woman looking at women. And she takes little girls seriously. And that's what goes most to my heart. Little girls with her are not pure or innocent or charming. These are masculine fantasies. A little girl is not pure. She couldn't care less. She's serious. And she takes them seriously. Sometimes they are very solemn, and sometimes they are melancholy, because they know that life is not going to be easy. And you see those little girls of the countryside of Worpswede, so yes, in their nobility, taken seriously. I had never seen that in art.
No. They have a very special dignity, don't they?
Yes. Yes, because they are not angels, not innocent, blah, blah, blah. All these things that was said about little girls forever. No, they are just little human beings on the planet, but on the feminine side. So it's not going to be that easy. But also, perhaps they have something to say, something to add, if somebody would listen. And Paula knows that. And she spends a lot of time with her little models. And you have all these little girls, you can see them in the exhibition, also getting a little bit bored, because it's long, you know, to be painted, to pose, it's long. And she catches that. It's so touching.
I like her way of giving them this dignified aura, They're there in their own right, and they have a voice, and they are people we should listen to and we should look at.
Exactly, yes.
For what they are.
Yes, that's exactly the point. She painted only 2 little boys in her life because she knew that was not her question, that was not her... She had something to say about little girls. Exactly what you say, dignity.
I think it's so interesting also, I mean, this is mainly, of course, a book about Paula Becker, but it's also a book about Clara, her best friend, and their husbands.
Yes.
And Clara and Paula, they are quite close. Clara wants to be the sculptor and Paula wants to paint. And they go together for a long time, very, very close.
As long as they can.
As long as they can. But then they choose completely different paths in life, don't they?
There is a very important event, is that Clara has the first child. At that time, when you got married, you had a child 9 months after. So Paula has this very ambivalent relationship with babies, and she avoids having babies. It's a complex story. Also, it's something she avoids with her husband. There's a sort of agreement and perhaps something else there. It's an interesting story between them. But Clara falls pregnant immediately and has the child. Rilke complains that the baby is noisy. Babies tend to be noisy. We all know that. So he flies away, he goes to Paris and becomes the secretary of Rodin, of the great sculptor Rodin. He leaves the baby and the mother alone. And he's a very bad husband and a very bad father, but he's a very good friend. He is the first one who buys Paula a painting to help her financially. And it's so bizarre, the painting he chooses is a small painting of a baby. Why? Did he feel guilty? Did he regret his child? I don't know. But it's a very beautiful little painting of a baby. And she knew how to paint babies. She took them seriously too, the eyes. It's very difficult to paint a good baby in art. In the Renaissance paintings, for example, the little Jesus, they are very strange in general. They look old or like little monkeys. Or she knows how to paint babies. The one in the exhibition with the pacifier. It's really, I had never seen a pacifier in the history of art before. It's very interesting. I had never seen a naked pregnant woman in the history of art. Naked, her self-portrait. It's not just an anecdote. It's very important because you see forms that you didn't see before because she's a woman.
And I was thinking about this self-portrait which you have on the cover of your book, which she paints before she's pregnant herself.
It's a strange...
She paints herself being pregnant, but she's not pregnant.
Yes. I think she tries being... How would I look if I was pregnant? So it's a little round belly of like 5 months, but she's not pregnant at that time. It's very easy to know. And the painting is dated. And why did she do that? She played. She played being pregnant. Would it be okay or not? Or she wanted and she didn't want.
I think she's extremely modern, don't you think so?
She's very modern. And she's also very modern in marriage. When Clara has the baby, Paula is horrified by the fact that Clara is stuck home. And Clara herself says, I cannot take my bicycle as I used before. I have to be home and take care of the child and take care of the house. It's horror for Paula. She doesn't want that. And actually she lives like a bourgeoise. She has a maid who cooks for her and her husband. Her husband, again, is very supportive and pays for everything, for her workshop. She really can paint. She's not bothered by material life at all. But for her, she never uses the word feminist, but she acts like a totally free artist and woman, except that nobody wants to see her paintings.
She even does what Virginia Woolf writes about a couple of years later. She gets herself her own room.
Yes, a room of one's own, yes. And the problem is that, yes, she has money, but it's her husband's money and she has to ask. That's why when she wants to run away, Rilke helps her and understands her need for freedom perfectly, which is quite modern at that time. But alas, in the end, she cannot be independent in Paris. She has no money. So she comes back to her husband, falls pregnant, and dies. It's a tragedy. It's a very womanly tragedy, and it's a shame. And I would, she on the pictures we have of her, she's very, the labor, the childbirth was very hard, and her face is marked by pain, but she looks happy. She's smiling. I'm sure she would have been a good mother. She's full of joy, and I regret that really deeply. It's like a friend. It's very strange. I regret that death very much. She would have had time to paint and be a mother. It would have been okay. Well, that's why I wrote the book. Yes, Schade. That's why I wrote the book. I wanted, yes, to give her more life, more space to paint. Mm.
But not only did you write the book, you went around to several museums trying to persuade them to make exhibitions of Paula's art.
Yes, I didn't know she would lead me so far. I toured in Germany with my husband and 3 children, from painting to painting in the summer. It was a very strange holiday. And then I went to really ask in the big museums of Paris, you have to show her. You have to show her. And in the end, I managed to make this exhibition with the help of the Musée d'Art Moderne. And here in Sweden, I'm proud to say that I pushed a little bit to show more of her, more paintings, and they perfectly understood her importance. And the fact that, for example, when you enter the exhibition, you see 2 birch trees. I think that's the name of these black and white trees. One on the left is painted by her husband, Otto Modersohn, and the one on the right is painted by her. Immediately you can understand the difference. There is a very traditional, beautiful birch tree by the husband and a modern tree by her. The same moment, the same tree. How did she do that? That's incredible for me.
Have you left Paula now? Is she somewhere inside you still?
Well, I'm very lucky that the book is translated in many countries, so I will go everywhere for her, and if possible, show her paintings. And she's with me. I'm done with the writing of her life. I'm writing novels again. It's my life, but I had a very strong story with her. She's with me. I have posters, reproductions of her paintings in my house. I cannot buy a painting, but I have a lot of posters of her. My children laugh about my passion for her, and we have magnets on the fridge, etc. She's part of our life, and I'm happy because she's a good person.